Good morning, everybody. I'm going to have to make this short and sweet, but I'm going to do my best to cover everything that I want to cover. But I have a day and a half of feeds to talk about. Of course, the main thing that happened last night was Zay versus Rachel in their argument. And while it wasn't the most epic Big Brother argument you'll ever see, Rachel had some great lines, which I'm not surprised about. My main takeaway from that whole argument was the aftermath of both sides being emotional after that happened. Something I will break down soon. First, though, I have to go back to like a night and a half ago, which would be Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Yeah, I think so. I never really got a chance to talk about the Lauren thing and a lot of people online are already calling her a pick me because she doesn't want to work with the women. And then there's some Lauren stands out there that are saying she shouldn't want to work with them because they didn't include her. I mean, I kind of see it as like Rachel was right when it when it came to Lauren. Like it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy from Lauren. Rachel called that she didn't want to kind of bring Lauren into things because Lauren was looking so close to Zach. And that was maybe something Zach was making it look like. But Lauren went around saying, oh, I'm not into Zach that way. And maybe she's not. However, perception is reality. And now the fact that she is using Zach and Vince as like her main people that she just needs to hear from is not good. That conversation that night when Lauren was basically asking them what to do, it was a lot. I didn't think Lauren looked good in that conversation, kind of throwing the girls under the bus with the potential girls alliance. And we all know girls alliances don't work on this show. And it is because of girls like Lauren, I suppose. But while I don't fault Lauren completely because she was on the outside of a lot of the girls talking, I think it's her own fault she was on the outside of a lot of the girls talking because of the perception of her and Zach, which she continues to play into. And I don't know if I completely believe her that she is not into Zach. I think Lauren also just comes off very young, and I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if she's trying to look naive to the rest of the house so that she can look a little innocent and like go under the radar, but I don't think that's working either. Um as time went on, there's been a lot of flip-flopping with this whole vote. And Ashley, of course, is one of the biggest flip-floppers. On the last video I talked about, it was about Ashley playing her own game, which I still appreciate. I know I had a comment that, Ashley's trying to save Zay and Zay would put her up. And that is probably true. However, Zay said a lot of different names. I don't think Ashley is necessarily the main target. I guess what I'm most happy about is that for years I sat on here and talked about this show and how all these unanimous votes are just so boring, and they were so boring. And with this blockbuster twist, AI Arena, it has fixed that problem. So I give the show props for that. I gave them props for that last season. It was one of the biggest issues on the show. And now we're going into a vote, and it's pretty split unless Callie is still on the block. I mean, Callie has done this to herself. She is like, I don't understand what game she's playing. I loved Ava and Will clowning on Callie last night, and I think it happened throughout the day a couple times from Ava. But yeah, she was going around spreading own rumors about herself that Ava called her out on to Will. And the Ava and Will duo, it's so random that I kind of hope it works. You have this young Italian white girl from New York, and you have this old black guy, and they like are this entertaining duo together. I don't know how far they could go strategically, but they do crack me up when they're together, just kind of talking shit a little bit. It's It's mostly Ava talking shit, but it was entertaining. I want Emily to go, I think, and I'm gonna get to the Zay argument in a second, but I really don't like her whatsoever. Her admitting on the feeds that she doesn't like to brush her teeth and that her husband has to make her brush her teeth was kind of the nail in the coffin I had for her. I knew she was coming into this as a country bumpkin. You know, she and the show tried to make it seem like she was a little more well traveled than just this little small town girl. But she's done nothing but like be an anti player. I hate players that won't play for themselves, which is why I will still give Ashley credit for at least sitting there and thinking about what's best for her vote. I don't think she should vote Kelly out against Zay because she would then be kind of turning on some of her main allies in Rachel and Amy. I mean, last night, Rachel and Amy were sitting up talking about how, well, Amy was trying to get through to Rachel. You can trust Ashley. She really is on our side. So if Ashley were to flip on that vote, she would put herself in a bad spot again. However, I'm still glad that Ashley is at least considering her vote because for years people would just go with what they're told and vote with the House. And it's nice to see the first vote just be all over the place. And it really could be all over the place. And then the blockbuster AI arena just adds to it because we and they don't know who's actually going to end up on the block in the end. So anything can kind of happen. It really does build anticipation for tonight's vote. So back to Zay versus Rachel. And it was really all of this is kind of a scheme that Keanu set up. And I do think that it's not a good scheme by him, though, because it did kind of fall back on Keanu as well. It was funny watching Amy and Ashley try and calm down Rachel after the argument because, you know, Zay keeps it real and it's Keanu that's the problem. And Zay is the one on the block, and Rachel just got in an argument with him. And Rachel doesn't want to hear this. She is trying to really convince Amy that if it comes down to Zay and Kelly on the block, who I have a hard time remembering a name, I want to call her Emily all the time. But if it comes down to Zay and Kelly on the block, then she's trying to convince Amy that, Zay does have to go. Zay's done a good job of campaigning. Well, I think his campaigning sucks personally, but he's done it so much that it has worked on some people. I mean, clearly, even Ashley is questionable with getting Zay out. That's why I've loved Ava going around the house. That if it's down to Zay and Kelly, why are we not? Why would we not vote out Zay? Like the big guy that could be good in comps, a physical threat. That they would look stupid if they keep Zay over Kelly, who's just playing this shitty game. So big ups to Ava. She's been one of the main people keeping it both real and logical in the house. But yeah, Zay just kind of repeats the same thing to everyone when he's campaigning. It's kind of like, and I like that Zay is targeting Rachel. I've said this since the beginning. I'm not going to shit on players for targeting Rachel. I see it so much on social media that if people are targeting Rachel, suddenly they're playing a bad game, and that's just not true. I would want to target Rachel if I was in the house with someone that's played twice and won one of those two times. It just makes the most logical sense. The way Zay, Keanu, and Vince are going about it, though, is just piss poor. Vince especially. I'll try to remember to get to Vince in a second. But Zay's campaigning is kind of just like, well, I'm good with a lot of people, but we got to get Rachel out, and that's why we got to get Amy out. I'm good with a lot of people. I think I have the votes, but he just repeats that over and over, and I don't think it's working on all the girls. By the end of last night, even Lauren was convinced to vote against Zay. She had to go to her guys in Vince and Zach to try and make sure that that's kind of okay. But at least for now, Lauren does seem to be leaning in the direction despite trying to throw the girls under the bus for an alliance. But that could, of course, change. We have an entire day of flip flopping where this can continue. I want to talk about the reaction after the argument. So the argument it wasn't that bad. I mean, Rachel had some great lines about how she's the queen. Don't mess with the queen, you'll get beheaded. My favorite was when she was arguing with Zay in the pantry, pretty much over the argument by then. Zay was projecting and trying to say that Rachel was playing the victim. And Rachel flat out said, I'm not the victim, but you're about to be when you go home this week. That was my favorite part of the argument. But afterwards, Rachel was very sad. She was crying to Amy, and I think that humanized Rachel. She's now older. I'm glad she's still willing to get in the fights despite being older, but she is now older. She's doubting herself that she could be good in competitions. And Amy was like a mother to Rachel in that conversation, trying to hype her up and make her feel better. So I appreciate that in Amy, and I see why Amy and Rachel get along in the house as the two mothers. It was good to see Rachel humanized as this big returning player because Rachel is not like this big strategic threat. She's just not. She's here for good TV, which she's already starting to give. But she's also, known for being good at comps, and now seeing her doubt that is interesting. But the other side of that was far more annoying to me. It was very annoying watching Zay and even Keanu and Vince try and play the victim after all of that. Vince pissed me off the most by saying that Rachel bullied him. I hate when people use the word, they just throw the word bully around. Like if Rachel was saying the same thing over and over to Vince, maybe that would be bullying. Maybe. But they're all grown adults for one. But also, it was just one time where Rachel, and I don't think she yelled, but Vince said that she yelled and said that he was being a terrible HOH or something. And clearly Vince was at least acting so offended about that. I didn't buy that. I hated him throwing the word bully around. But then Zay and Keanu were also just crying about the whole confrontation from Rachel for like a couple hours after it happened. And it's just, I really hate seeing these grown men act like it's just so unfair that there's just one more woman than them in the house. And this week is unfair. So it's very hard for me to root for the Keanu's, the Zays, and the Vinces right now because they're playing terrible. But also them acting like the victim in the scenario was just way too much. Oh my God, this mom just was coming after Zay. Please stop. So yeah, I want people to target Rachel because it's the logical thing to do. But the people targeting Rachel right now, very impossible to root for. And Vince whining about, I can't have Zay go home this week. It's so bad for my game. Why did you nominate him in the first place? I've given Vince credit for having a social game. He does have a social game. His decision making as HOH was ass. And now after the fact, he looks dumb if Zay or Kelly go home because Kelly's his number one and he needs Zay as a shield. And so, you did it to yourself, Vince. I need to talk about one more thing. I gotta go soon, unfortunately. I have to talk about this Riley and Kat thing. It's already very creepy. I don't know why they casted Riley in the first place. I saw after a day or two on feeds that there's something off with Riley. And the fact that he's already obsessing about Kat after like less than a week in the house, maybe just a week in the house, whatever it is, I don't like it. I was uncomfortable watching him tell her that you're just going to have to deal with the way I feel. And Kat could use this on a game level, sure. That Riley's telling Kat that he's already willing to throw his game away to make sure that she wins the game. But this is the same man that has multiple baby mamas at home now, and this sort of creepy thing must work in the country. It must work out in the country, but I don't see it working in the house with Kat. So yes, while Kat could use this to her advantage on a game level, it's creepy, and I feel uncomfortable for her. I Riley is creepy. I could just look in his eyes and see it, and I don't like it. And I hope he's not in the game for long. He's also just telling every person on the block that they're safe, and he is trying to just throw all the competitions. So he's bringing nothing to a game level for me outside of him now being a creep. Anyway, I will try and update again tomorrow morning. I doubt I will be able to talk tonight after the vote